Thinking of the good old days when Game of Thrones was at the peak of their success and you're like, oh, I would really like to watch something like that again. Well, you should try FX's Shogun. Hi, my name's Drew and welcome to another review video on Flying Wiener. Now, if you're not familiar with this, I did see it quite have some traction on social media as it came out episodically week for week a short while ago. But still, if you haven't heard of this, Shogun is a show made by FX. I believe in America you get it on Hulu. In Europe, or at least in Austria, because obviously Fox is owned by Disney, you just get it through Disney Plus. That is how I watched it. So this is a sort of, it's not like they're trying to be Game of Thrones, I just used that because many people were making this comparison. I can see where they're coming from, but it's definitely different than Game of Thrones. But still, it's a good sort of first entryway comment that you can make about the show. So yeah, if you're looking for your Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon fix, where it's about, big feuds going on between ruling people and how they resolve them, etc. Yeah, this could maybe satiate that fix. Anyway, so yes, this is set in Japan, this whole thing. It is basically, I would call it a Japanese series because the majority of the dialogue itself even is in Japanese, unless you watch the dub, but why would you do that? You uncultured swine. No, I'm just kidding, but no, please, watch the Japanese to get the original delivery. Yeah, some of it is in English because one of the characters, as I will explain, is speaking English. But yes, so we've got setting in Japan a few hundred years ago where Westerners are sort of first making contact with them and trying to figure out, what can they do with these new people that they've not met before, what are these samurai and how can they probably use them to their own advantage, all these kind of things. And this is about a feud happening with the ruling parties of Japan. But I'd say let's get stuck into the plot. I've basically already started a bit. We are focused on, like I say, Japan, where you've got the Taiko, who was the ruler. He passes away. His son is too young to take over the mantle just yet, so he puts in place a council of 5 people, 5 lords, to sort of deal with all the official business and matters until the son comes to age and can be the new Taiko. That is the basic gist of the main overarching plot that's happening. This is in the background all the time. We are focused, as far as these lords are concerned, on one of them. He is played by, legendary actor Hiroyuki Sanada, who you will know from many things, he even appeared in Avengers Endgame, He was in Mortal Kombat. There's so many things, and that's just rather recent. Obviously, if you go back decades, you'll find him all over the place. Rush Hour 3, I believe he was. Anywhere you look, you will find him. Anyway, he plays Lord Yoshi Toranaga. He is one of these 5 lords, and you could say he is, you could say, you have to say, he's the only one who has actually got the wishes of the deceased Taiko and his son in mind. Because all the other 4, they're trying to band together, they're trying to be the new rulers, don't care about the kid. They want to have the power for themselves. But he's like, no, this is not okay. This is not what we're here for. This is not what we agreed to. And obviously, as you can imagine, a lot of friction comes from that. And this is what carries through. I'll be very straight here. I've only seen 7 of the 10 episodes. I haven't seen the whole thing, but up until now, that has been the through line throughout the story. So you could call it a rebellion by one lord, because obviously the others are not happy with this and are trying to get rid of him. So he is trying to do the right thing while being under immense pressure to go along with these other lords. That's the one side of the story. The other side of the story is a man called John Blackthorne. He is an Englishman. He's sailing with some Dutch people, and he is sort of, let's call it, washed ashore there in Japan, because basically, I forget when this is set. I believe it's supposed to be something like 16th, 17th century, something along those lines. The people, or I suppose nations you should say, who have made contact up until now are Spanish and Portuguese. And yeah, so he's caught somewhere in the middle there. They're obviously trying to establish trade routes and trying to earn huge profits like most people do, or did back then as well. So yeah, so he and his crew, they're taken prisoner there, and he, on the one hand, is trying to get his crew back. On the other hand, obviously, Toranaga wants to make use of this situation because he's not really familiar with either the Spanish or the Portuguese. A lot of church missionaries that have been sent there trying to convert people to Christianity. You could even say subjugate. I'm pretty sure that was an angle that was pursued back then. You know, like, oh great, we can control these new people. They don't even know who God is, basically, you know. Yeah. So he is trying to learn everything he can about them, and gradually, obviously, is also very interested in the type of warfare because cannons, etc., weren't that wide in use yet in Japan. So that's where John Blackthorne comes in. The third main person I would mention as part of the plot is played by Anna Sawai. Her name is Toda Mariko. She is a translator, so she is Christian, so we already have an example of someone who has converted to Christianity, and she speaks Portuguese and translates. Now, if you're a bit confused because I just said Portuguese and I said John Blackthorne is an Englishman, I was very confused as well the first 2 episodes until I googled it. And if I understand correctly, it's supposed to be Portuguese that they are talking, right? So in the book, this is based on a book, by the way. There was also a 1980s miniseries with Richard Chamberlain. I have neither read the book nor have I seen the miniseries, so I can't in any way compare or comment on them. I can't tell you, but it's my understanding that they are actually speaking Portuguese, but for our pleasure as the viewer, it's English, right? It's really confusing because at some point they also mention in the dialogue, like, you speak Portuguese, right? And she says yes, and then a minute later you hear her talking English and you're like, wait, what? That's why. So for our benefit, they've immediately put it, dubbed it, if you will, into English, although they are actually talking English, the actors, just to be a bit more confusing about the whole situation. Anyway, so she's a translator, right? And Toranaga, trusts her a lot. And yeah, the two get to know each other, of course, being translator. And John Blackthorne's side of the story is not only teaching the Japanese everything he can about the Navy and warfare, although he's not a soldier, you know, so he's having difficulty with that. But also, through his eyes, we are exploring Japanese culture, which is what I probably like most about this story, apart from just watching Hiroyuki Sanada in every scene that he's in, right? Yeah, what I like about this story is it's not a white saviour thing, because I mean, you could easily fall into that trap. You know, we've got one European guy going to Japan, and you know, he could be, if this were a horror, you think of Last Samurai. I mean, I'll be honest, I like Last Samurai as a film, I really enjoy it. But yeah, it's definitely got these undertones of white saviour stuff, etc. So I'm really happy they did not go that route here, and there are a lot of conflicts that happen, misunderstandings between the two cultures. It's funny because in the start, Blackthorne, you know, he treats or sees the Japanese people as barbarians, and vice versa. They're like, you know, oh, he's a dog, you know, can't even wash himself, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's really funny watching this back and forth because they can't understand each other as well. But we as the audience understand everything, so that's quite a lot of fun. But yeah, he doesn't come in, doesn't swoop in as the big saviour or anything, not at all. He is actually humbled because he's like, you know, I'm the captain, and you know, how dare you, and give me back my ship, etc., etc. And he is, you know, he's just cast aside, and you know, do as you're told, and only speak when asked or talked to, and all these kind of things. But it's also interesting because we gradually learn, obviously there's a sort of middle ground. Neither civilization is barbaric, they're just very different. And as someone who is at least superficially very interested in Japanese culture, I enjoy this a lot. You know, you see, I mean, it really fascinates me, this perfection that they strive for, at least historically, with the Bushido samurai, you know, code and all these kind of things. And even when they're angry, because like I said, a lot of conflict happening, I don't mean actual fights, but you know, sort of, you could call them morally or in discussions, whatever. You see a lot of people, you see this really suppressed, controlled anger, you know, bubbling under the surface. And it's just really interesting to watch. So it's not got that much action in it. So Game of Thrones definitely had a lot more action. So this is a lot about the discussions and sort of the strategic thinkings going on, and you learn about, you know, sort of honor systems and codes. And not literally, there's not one, you know, person reading paragraphs or something like that. I'm saying you sort of get a feel for how society worked back then. And it is my understanding that it's at least very faithful to the book. I would assume and hope that it's also very faithful to how it actually was in society, but I can't comment on that. All I'm saying is it's just very interesting to explore this world through Blackthorn's eyes, and he makes a lot of mistakes. So like I say again, he definitely doesn't swoop in as the saviour. He makes a lot of mistakes, you know, and is taught that, you know, in this world he has to integrate, he has to try and be one of them. Otherwise, people are going to get hurt, you know, not just himself, but other people as well. That's all I'll say about that. It gets a bit complicated, and like I say, you've got obviously the story in the background with the lords going on, etc. And I really enjoyed that as well. We've got a lot of back and forth there with tactical things, and then, you know, figuring out how are they going to try and solve this big problem. But the main focus of the story, like I say, to me is this exploration of Japanese society then, and how people interacted and how they treated each other based on who they are, where they come from, you know, which household or which position in the household, and all these kind of things, the hierarchy and all that stuff. I really enjoyed it a lot. Visually, it's absolutely breathtaking. I love it from start to finish. So the poster's got this sort of teal, turquoise, blue going on, and that kind of also carries through in a lot of the landscapes, and I mean, at least in my recollection. No, but just visually it looks great, and like you don't even mind that a lot of it's just happening in houses, people talking, etc. Because I just enjoyed the visuals from start to finish. Yeah, when there are fights, the choreography is great as well. Enjoyed everything from start to finish. I don't have anything bad to say about this. If you have, at least where it's available, Disney Plus, watch it on Disney Plus. If you've got Hulu, watch it on Hulu. You know, this is definitely a show. I hope they will make more of it, because I'm really interested. I mean, I'm even excited obviously to see the finale, because I have still got 3 episodes to go. But after that, I do hope there'll be more in the future. I really like shows like these. I really enjoy exploring other cultures, learning about them, you know, figuring out if I can apply any of that to my own life to better myself, you know, and this for me definitely has a lot of that. So, very high recommendation from me. That'll be all from me today. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe. It is the best way to support this channel. Leave a comment down below about Shogun. Have you read the book? Have you seen the mini-series from the 80s? Are there any comparisons? Anything you want to see? Any and all of that, put it down in the comments below. I'll thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one on Flying Wiener. Take care. Bye.